Good evening and welcome to Winter Sports Night. My name is Pat Crater. I'm the Director of Student Activities, and we are really looking forward to another season of winter sports at Unionville High School. And so one of the things that we're most looking forward to is that we're going to have a much more normal season than last year. We are confident about that. We are still meeting via Zoom for our Winter Sports Night. But we are looking forward to a safe and successful season. So I'm going to get right into the presentation. I know that folks are also looking forward to meeting their coaches later on this evening. So let's get right into the presentation. Joining me this evening is Mr. Vogler, who's our head athletics trainer and athletics coordinator, and also Miss Kendall Yarish, who is one of our athletic directors. So thank you for joining me for this presentation. And as you can see on this slide here, this shows our athletics department. And this summer, there was a change in our athletics model. And so my role has transitioned from supervisor of athletics to director of student activities. And really what that job encompasses is leadership, advocacy, and administration for athletics, performing arts, and also clubs and activities. And so what we really have here is a great team of leaders. As I already introduced, Ms. Yarish and Mr. Vogler, thank you for all that you do. We also have Mrs. Weaver, our athletics office manager, who does so much behind the scenes. Ms. Schnards is one of our athletic trainers. Mrs. Walshell is an athletic trainer and also our family ID manager. And I also just want to use this opportunity to thank our coaches. They do so much behind the scenes. They do a really nice job working with our athletes. They're committed, and I can attest that they really care about your kids. So thank you to our coaches as well. Also in this Department of Student Activities, we have deans of students at both buildings who are really on the front lines of the clubs and activities. So I just want to give those people a shout out as well. Although this is an athletics department presentation, again, we just have a great team of leaders who are all here to support the kids at Unionville High School. So moving along here, these are our unsung heroes. And so these names might not look familiar. You might not know who these people are, but they are really integral to our operations in athletics. And so just really want to take this moment to thank these people for all that they do to support our program behind the scenes. Mr. Weitzel from the facilities department, and same with Mr. Nuremberg. Our custodians, thank you so much, Mr. Mark Klein, and then transportation as well. They do so much in terms of getting our kids safely to and from their contests. They've been working through a lot of challenges this year with the labor shortage, as everybody is aware of. But they remain positive, and they're always working hard to help us out. So thank you to our transportation people as well, Mr. Sorty. Mr. Boyer is the transportation scheduler. And then there's also a lot of people who show up to work at our games in order to keep our contests safe and successful. We have game managers, event workers, ticket sellers, game attendants, scoreboard operators, announcers, and then the league also contracts an assigner for each sport, and their job is to provide officials. And so we just want to thank those people as well. That is another challenge that we're dealing with in addition to transportation, is the official shortage. And so I can assure you that our assigners are working hard to try to cover all games. But it is a little bit of a challenge right now that we're working through with our assigners. And I think one of the best things that we can do to support this challenge is to make sure that we're being respectful of our officials and just really treating everybody in a positive way at our games. And we can do this. We can have a great season. Again, there are some challenges this year. But we are very optimistic and looking forward to a great season. So let me move on here. Here's a few other next couple slides, just some people who I want to acknowledge. So we do have the Unionville Sports Council, and Mrs. Victoria West is the president. So I just want to use this opportunity to thank her for her leadership. This is a nonprofit group. It's really an umbrella organization that supports all of our booster clubs. And so they are also unsung heroes. They do a lot behind the scenes that nobody even knows about in terms of keeping everything in compliance and supporting our clubs. They provide the Huddle license, which is our video streaming service. They work with concessions and PA tax filings and the gaming license. And then they also take care of a lot of the government document preparation in terms of taxes and registrations. They also provide grants to our booster clubs. And so they really do a lot behind the scenes to support our booster clubs so that our booster clubs can support our athletes. So just wanted to give a shout out to USC. And we have another organization called USAC, and this is the Unionville Student Athlete Advisory Committee. And this is a student-led organization. This year's president is Faith Ilgner, and she's been doing an excellent job this year. And really, USAC has one representative from each team that serves on this committee. They are nominated by their coach, and as students graduate, then their seat opens up, and then another student comes in. And so we meet with these students on a monthly basis. As you can see here on the slide, they do a lot to keep the department going and healthy and positive, and they promote school spirit, and there's a community service aspect. So I just want to thank all of our students who are part of USAC. They do an excellent job, and it's really been a pleasure working with those students. So the next two slides, I'm gonna share something that is relatively new, and then something that has been around for a few years now. And so, as everybody is aware, our mascot changed last January. We're now the Unionville Longhorns, which has been an exciting change for our students. It's really been great to see our students embrace the Longhorn. The student section is called the Herd, and the kids are wearing the spirit wear, and so it's really been great. And along with this mascot change, the district has created a logo and branding style guide, and this has been something that has really served us well. And somebody who doesn't have a marketing background, I don't really know that much about logos and branding. I really found this helpful. One of the things that we learned throughout the mascot committee is that there was a desire to have more consistency in our logo. The old U, there were 4 or 5 versions of it all over campus. And so I learned about brand integrity and brand commitment. And so the district does have a style guide that we are asking everybody to use. It is on file in the athletics office. If anybody wants to use the logo, we certainly endorse that. And you could reach out to us anytime for this logo and style guide. We also have a library of logo files as well. And so we're just really excited about this and wanted to share something new. Something that's been around for a few years now is the athletics values and standards. And we've been working with the values and standards for a few years now, and after the pandemic, we wanted to bring this back and bring it to the forefront and remind our community that these are still very important to us. And so a few years ago, there were a committee of stakeholders who worked on these values and standards. We surveyed the community, we had focus groups, and really what we came up with was a set of values and standards that belong to our community. So these are not my values. These are our community's values and standards, and they have served us well. They're very near and dear to our department. Actually, when you register on Family ID, there's a box that you check there, acknowledging that you've read the values and standards, and our coaches are very much familiar with our values and standards, and they've incorporated our values and standards into the fabric of their programs as well. So we want to encourage everybody to renew their vows with the values and standards. Again, these are very important to us. And just wanted to spend a minute talking about our values and standards here. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Yarosh. Again, she is a trusted teacher and a coach in our department, and she has jumped on board as one of our athletic directors in our new model. and she's just done an excellent job. So I'm really, really excited, and I'm going to turn over the program to Kendall here for a few slides. So thank you, Kendall.
Of course. Thank you, Mr. Crater. So I'm very excited to be on board with the athletics department, and I look forward to supporting all of your student athletes throughout this winter season. So some quick facts about our program. As a whole department, we have 28 high school programs. We have 18 middle school programs. We also have one club sport and one unified sport. In all, we have about 1,300 athletes that participate in our programs, which is amazing. We love to get our students involved after school, help them find something they love, and make great connections, not only with their peers, but also with coaches. We have about 100 paid coaches on our staff. And then throughout the year, we do about 320 middle school games and about 610 high school games. So this gives you some perspective on all the events that go on here on our campus. For those of you particularly that are new to the high school, so that you understand the progression within the athletics world, we first up have our league. So the league that we participate in is the Chessmont League, but within the Chessmont, there are 2 divisions, and we compete within the American division. Going up above that, we are in a district as well, and the PIAA, the state of Pennsylvania, breaks our state into 12 geographic districts. We are part of what is called District 1, and again, that is our local and our regional level of districts. So, and then above that, of course, is our state of Pennsylvania. So we are part of the PIAA, which is the inter-district championship organization that hosts our state playoffs, and they also adopt and establish and enforce all of the athletics rules. So that you have a big picture perspective on what athletics opportunities we offer. So we're approaching the close of the fall season as we approach playoff time for the fall. But during the fall, we offer cheerleading, cross country, golf, field hockey, football, soccer, girls tennis, and girls volleyball. During the winter, we offer basketball, cheerleading, competitive spirit team, swimming and diving, wrestling, and then indoor track and field. Come the springtime, we'll offer baseball, lacrosse, softball, boys tennis, track and field, and boys volleyball. So these are our high school programs that we offer. And then, as mentioned before, we do have one club sport that we are associated with, and that would be our club rowing team. And then also, as mentioned, we have one unified team, which is our bocce team. So there's a large athletics handbook that we all ask that our student athletes and our families and our coaches read and abide by. But some highlights for you to reference is first up the commitment to the team. So the high school commitment is a large commitment, and it is something that we feel strongly about. So for general information, teams either practice or compete daily. That's Monday through Fridays. But please be aware that many of our high school programs are active on Saturdays as well. That could be games and/or practices. Depending on the sport, of course, though, practice times do vary. Many are immediately after school, but also some of our high school teams, particularly in the wintertime, with our obviously many indoor sports, many practices do occur during the evenings as well. As mentioned, games occur during the weekdays, but also on Saturdays, and this is a high school program only component. As a student athlete, we expect a high level of commitment to your team. Practices and attendance at your athletic contests are expected, and they are essential to be part of that commitment, and they should be a very high priority to our student athletes. When a student athlete misses practice or a competition, that can certainly hinder their individual skill development, but it also affects the attitude and the knowledge development of the individual, but also the team. Of course, when they're missing practices or games, this can increase their chance of injury. It can also affect their role within the team. And overall, it can affect the team's performance and chances for success. So that is why attendance at practice and games are mandatory unless they are excused by a coach ahead of time under unusual circumstances, of course. There are a few components to arriving late to school. We all recognize that things occur during the day and life happens at times, and we can't control certain things, but you should be aware of when things are considered excused versus unexcused in order to help prevent any of these issues arising. So as stated there, an unexcused tardy, if you arrive before 8:35 in the morning, you are still eligible to participate in your athletic practice or contest that day. However, if you have an unexcused tardy and you arrive after 8:35 in the morning, you are then ineligible to practice or compete that day. Discussing excused tardies, where the student brings a note with an excusable lateness and they arrive before 11:25 in the morning, they are eligible to compete during the day, later in the afternoon or evening. And then again, if they arrive late with an excuse, however, it is after 11:25, this makes you ineligible to practice. There is a special caveat there that if athletes who have exceeded their maximum number of tardies, which is 10, this includes both excused and unexcused together. And this accumulates throughout the year. It's not specific to a sports season. This is the entire school year. You may be required to provide then a doctor's note in order to report to school and be eligible to participate in athletics that day. Discussing early dismissals, if your student athlete needs to be excused early from school, they may return to participate in their athletic activity later in the day, again, if they have an excused early dismissal. Athletes, however, who leave school early due to illness may not come back and participate later that day without administrative approval. And then lastly, absences. So athletes who are absent from school are ineligible to participate that day in practice or a game. However, athletes who are going to be absent from school during their season for a reason such as a college visit or an awards ceremony, they would need to get approval from their assistant principal prior to the date of the absence in order to be able to participate later that day.
Okay, so moving on, and I see that sign in the back says Miss Yarosh rocks, and that is true. So thank you, and Kendall will be back in the presentation in just a few slides, but I'll take the next few here. Some more highlights from the handbook. Just like Kendall said, we certainly encourage everybody to take a good look at this handbook. It can answer a lot of your questions, so these are just a few of the highlights. The handbook is comprehensive, but these are things that draw special attention. And so one of those elements of the handbook is communicating concerns. And so sports provide some of the greatest experiences for children. Even myself, looking back as a former athlete, some of the highlights of my high school career was playing sports. But with that comes concerns from time to time, and it's important that we outline how to address concerns in a way that can best result in a positive resolution. And so that's what this section of the handbook really highlights. And so it's important to know up front that it's the coach's job to select the team, to put together the lineup and the strategy, and that is something that it's the sole prerogative of our coaches to take care of that. That is their job. Again, we recognize that concerns come up during a season, and so we put together this protocol, and the way we put together the protocol was through our Values Ambassadors Committee, which is parents, students, coaches, administrators, school board representative. And we spent a lot of time working on this protocol here because we knew that, again, ultimately the goal is to come up with a positive resolution when there is a concern. And so what you see here on this slide is that really the first step, if there's a concern, is that the student athlete should speak with the coach. there's a slide coming up next that's all about self-advocacy and how important we believe that is. And so those conversations really can take care of 99% of the concerns. And so, we definitely empower our athletes to self-advocate. We will help our athletes to self-advocate. And again, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. After that conversation occurs, we ask people to give some time, just to see if things improve, to see if whatever the concern is resolves. And after a couple weeks, if there's still concern, at that point, it would be appropriate for the athlete to speak with the coach and have a parent present. That's acceptable as a second step here. And again, that we would hope that those conversations are productive and respectful and can result in a positive resolution. And every now and then, if there's still a concern after that second level meeting, then the student athlete is welcome to speak with me, certainly. And I would invite the coach and the parent to be present. And if there's still an issue after that meeting, after giving it some more time to resolve, if the concern is big enough, then at that point I would consider engaging the superintendent or the principal. But really, what we found is that 99% of concerns are resolved at this first level here, and we've been empowering our athletes to self-advocate, and we actually put together this little roadmap here to self-advocate, because we realized that we said, hey, we want our athletes to self-advocate, but that is easier said than done. And so we talked about how we can foster these conversations, not only for the athletes, but also for the coaches. And so we did put together this roadmap, and our staff is totally committed to helping our athletes navigate a conversation as part of this protocol. And so we ask our families to join us in promoting self-advocacy. It's just such a tremendous life lesson. I know everybody already recognizes that, and just through athletics is a great time to practice self-advocacy. And so this is proven to produce a lot of positive results when concerns arise. But just back to the concern piece as well. Just want to make note that it's never a good time to have a conversation before or after a practice. Certainly before or after a game, there's an appropriate time and place to have these conversations. But this protocol and self-advocacy is something that is important to us. Along with that, we talk about playing time and the competition level, and it's important to highlight this as well, just so that everybody has an understanding up front. So we do have some freshman teams. Certainly we have a middle school program, but this is a high school presentation. And really at the freshman level, it's just a continuation of skill development. We try to get as many kids involved as possible. Certainly we turn the scoreboard on, so we do try to win games, but the priority is getting kids involved, helping kids to develop their skills, and hoping that kids remain active. At the freshman level, there's not a guarantee for equal playing time, but coaches are aware that those athletes who are meeting all the expectations of the team, that they are deserving of opportunities to compete. At the JV level, this level is really intended to prepare athletes for the varsity level. And with that said, again, equal playing time is not guaranteed. Coaches will try to get everybody playing time, certainly. Again, really, in addition to all the good things about sports, making friends, having fun, being active, the purpose of JV is to get athletes ready for the varsity level. And then once you get into the varsity level, that is the most competitive program that we have at Unionville. The head coach determines the playing time, the positions, the starting lineups, the strategies. That is really based on team needs. And at this level, this can be tough, but playing time is not guaranteed at this level. And certainly if there's a lopsided score, coaches can get a little more creative with how they manage their roster. But it is a highly competitive level in our program, and so that's just a little bit about our overall playing time and competition protocols there. So let me turn it back over to Ms. Yarish for one more slide, and then we'll get into some of our athletic training procedures. So, and welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Crater. So some important information and some important dates here. So you might want to screenshot this slide so that you don't miss any deadlines. We set up these dates to help our department run more smoothly in order to help your athletes and our coaches get their programs off the ground as quickly and as smoothly as possible. So we ask that family ID registrations be completed by November the 12th. So that registration and that paperwork be uploaded. This allows our family ID managers time to review your information, all of the athletes that are submitting. Obviously, family ID, there's a lot of paperwork to go through, and we would like to allow them time to look through that, as well as communicate back to you if there are any issues or adjustments that need to be made prior to the start date. Because as Mr. Vogler will reiterate, an athlete cannot participate until their family ID is approved in the system. So speaking of that, all PIAA interscholastic winter sports begin a week later on November the 19th. Again, this gives our training staff a week to finalize any family ID issues. Indoor track and field, however, will begin after Thanksgiving, that Monday after Thanksgiving, which is November the 29th. So keep that in mind for our indoor track and field athletes. And then our unified bocce team will begin on December the 7th. So please keep those deadlines and start dates in mind. I'll pass it over to Mr. Vogler now to speak about some additional information on where to find things.
Thank you, Ms. Yara. So as Mr. Crater said, I kind of wear two hats as the head athletic trainer and also our athletics coordinator. So the main role as athletics coordinator is to kind of maintain all of our schedules. So we get questions all the time about where we can find schedule information. And so we put this slide in here to just kind of help you find where all the information is. It's certainly the spreadsheets and the schedules that we use to keep ourselves straight and organized, but it certainly can be used by everyone. So if you go to the athletics webpage, which is on the left-hand side there, the upcoming games tab is really the main document that we use to kind of have our schedule. So it has a master list of all games in our department, all team events, all tournaments, all scrimmages, and they are listed there along with bus times, dismissal times, special events, home, away, venue, that type of thing. And then certainly if you're looking for each individual team schedule, you can go to the teams tab, which is in the middle there, right above the student athlete wearing number 10 in the picture. And if you go to the individual teams page, there's a schedule link, which will take you to an additional website called Digital Sports, which has your team's website listed. Sometimes that's not as quickly updated as the upcoming games document, because occasionally it's co-managed by both schools that are involved. So sometimes we have to wait for approval from another school or another school to set the time on the system. So if you're looking for a quick, fast answer, usually the upcoming games document is the first thing we update. And then the digital sports platform kind of follows if we're waiting on another school to make a change. Additional things on the website are the athletics calendar, which kind of reiterates the dates that we already mentioned. Family ID is right there. Our values and standards, all the things that have been already talked about here in this presentation, if you want to go more in depth, are kind of those big buttons right below where it says Unionville High School search for a new mascot. So there's a lot of stuff on our athletics website. We encourage you to kind of explore, but those are kind of the main tabs there. And then additionally from social media, we have the Go U Athletics is kind of the tagline or the username for both accounts on both Twitter and Instagram. On Instagram, it's run by a student manager and she does an amazing job. So we encourage you to check that out. And then Twitter is a great resource where we'll post some of the more information, and it's a great resource. So moving into the next slide, which is some of the more athletic training stuff. So switching to my athletic trainer hat. First, I'm going to talk about Family ID. So Family ID is the online registration platform that we've already talked about a little bit. I'm not going to go through these slides in a ton of depth, but feel free to pause the video and read or use this as a resource when you're registering later. But really for sports, if you've already played a sport, you can do a quick form, which is called subsequent season on Family ID. And if it's the first time playing a sport this school year, you would do an initial registration, which requires a physical signed by a physician or another provider, such as a nurse practitioner or physician assistant. So after you register, I kind of equate this to if you've ever ordered something from Amazon, you get two emails. The first email is just saying like, hey, your registration was received. And then the second one is kind of saying like, hey, your registration was either approved or we need more information. So you're not actually approved until you get that second email that says approval. That's when Ms. Walshell will kind of go through and let you know if everything's good or if we need some corrections. Activities fees can be paid electronically on Family ID. There is a small fee, or we do accept cash or checks, still accepted in the athletics office. The one caveat with activities fees is that if you are playing a cut sport, you can wait to play until after cuts are made. That's certainly fine as well. So some quick common mistakes, as I said, like you might get a correction required email. The physical should be dated after June 1st, 2021. That's a mistake on there. It says 2020, but it should be June 1st, 2021. So the most recent year. And before you leave the physician's office, you want to make sure that cleared is checked. There's a signature and a date on there. Also for the signatures, we ask a parent, well, not we, the PIAA requires a parent guardian signature and a student athlete signature. A common mistake we'll see is that both sections are signed by the parent or guardian or both sections are signed by the student. So just make sure that both the parents and the student are signing the electronic signatures. So going into some of our athletic training procedures. So in our sports medicine department, we really have 3 athletic trainers. Our team physician oversees us and is available on, by telephone for us, and he's at some events. And then we have some student interns from Westchester University. So really to break it down in the most simple context, if an athlete's injured at a UCFSD sporting event, or they report to us from an injury that occurred that's going to affect them during sports. If it's a minor injury, we might send a letter home or just give the athlete some advice. If it's a moderate or significant injury, one of the athletic trainers will call you or contact you when you pick your child up. And depending on the severity, they may need to see a physician. We do ask, and it's a PIAA requirement, that if an athlete sees a physician, that we just get a doctor's note clearing the athlete. And then, athletes need to check in with us and along with the coaching staff, we'll functionally test them to kind of see their level of participation. There is some caveats that, even after a clearance, there are certain conditions such as skin conditions, and concussions and illnesses, specifically COVID, that there's additional requirements before you can play. So you might be cleared, but there's some additional either school, NFHS, or PIAA requirements before you can participate. So some athletic training tips, I think, the biggest thing is that Ms. Schnars, Ms. Walshell, and my role is that we're here for the health and safety of the student athletes. We want to see them successful, but we want to also see them healthy and safe. So encourage them to see us, and we're a resource, and we're always a resource for parents, and you can always email us or call us and ask us to be an advocate for your child. That's what we're here for. In the winter, some of the things that, sometimes are a little frustrating is that we do have some cold weather guidelines when we get into the really cold weather. So we just ask the athletes always have proper cold clothing, sweatpants, long sleeve shirt, hat and gloves, possibly, in their locker or available to them, so that if it's a cold day, we have some of those weather guidelines that they can be properly dressed. I think that one of the biggest things we ask is that we encourage our athletes to practice healthy habits. Proper rest, nutrition, and sleep are some of the best recovery agents we have. and they go a long way to helping heal injuries. And like I said, we're an advocate for your student athletes, or for our student athletes and your child. Inform us of medical conditions, even if they're on the Section 7. Sometimes it's helpful to just say like, hey, like, my child has an allergy, like here's where he keeps his EpiPen and that type of thing. There's so many athletes that sometimes it's hard to make an individualized plan for each athlete, but if they reach out to us and self-advocate, or the parents reach out to us, we're always able to kind of create an individualized plan. It's really helpful to put a face with a name, so we know well in advance of who we're dealing with. But again, if there's anything I can emphasize from the slide, is that we're here for the student athletes, and let us know how we can help. So as I kind of talked about this already, but we do have some healthcare partnerships that kind of make up our sports medicine program. And these are valuable assets to us to be able to build like truly a healthcare system for our student athletes. So our team physician is Dr. Yuka through Premier Orthopedics. We're incredibly fortunate to have a great orthopedic and sports medicine doctor in him. His main role is that he supervises us as athletic trainers, but he also is consulted for injuries, and we also get priority appointments and increased communication with his offices. And he has quite a few offices locally, which are very convenient. We also have our assistant athletic trainer at the high school is provided by ATI Physical Therapy, so we get priority appointments, particularly at their Kennett Square clinic. And then, as I said, we have some student interns from Westchester University. They can't practice independently, but they're certainly around, and they're certainly very helpful. So if you ever see some students around, or some college age students helping, they are graduate students, and they're in their own right, very advanced for their age, and they're able to help us. And Ms. Schnars, Ms. Walshell, and I supervise them.
All right, so thank you, Mr. Vogler, and you rock as well. And but in all seriousness, our athletic trainers, they are the best in the business. They care deeply about our athletes, and so thanks for all you do, and your team as well. So just our final slide here is just some direction on where to go next. So at 6 p.m. Our coaches are ready to host some individual team meetings where they'll share a little bit more about their programs and the expectations. It's a great opportunity for some Q&A. I hope that you found this evening informative and helpful. I just feel like the more we're on the same page as a department, the better experiences ultimately our kids are going to have. And that's what's most important. So definitely appreciate everybody's time and for tuning in this evening. Again, check out the athletics handbook, the athletics values and standards, and I just hope that everybody has a great evening. I hope that it's everybody has a great winter season. Again, we're really looking forward to it, and we're all rooting for your athletes and our teams. So just want to invite everybody to join us and cheering and clapping and rooting for our teams and our athletes. And I really think it's going to be a great season. So thank you again, Ms. Yarosh, for joining us for this presentation, and Mr. Vogler as well. And we will see you out there in the next month or so. So have a great evening, and best of luck.